It's been a crazy, crazy week all of a sudden.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels like, some things are slowly moving. I've noticed. So people like are getting busier with like normal stuff. I don't know. We'll see.
Tennessee is already in phase two, so restaurants are open, and it's just they open gyms.
Yeah. Wow. Gyms. Okay. Interesting.
Confusing to like what you're supposed to do sometimes. It's a very weird time.
It's a very weird time, Sarah. So thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
You're one of the most in-demand drummers right now in rock and roll and country. And we know you're busy, so many projects. So we certainly appreciate your time, Sarah. Thank you.
Oh, you.
So, obviously want to talk about a bunch of stuff with you. Want to finish up with, with Dem Vibes, the new EP, the Loving Mary band, with so many things. But first of all, I would like to start, how have the past, 3 months been for you since early March? What have they been like for Sarah Tomek?
It's been kind of like up and down. I think a roller coaster, as it would be for any musician. We were still doing live streams, full band with Maggie Rose and Them Vibes in March, and then we stopped that sometime around the 20th. So it's just been really odd to not play full band electric with your mates in 3 months. We're doing one tonight, actually, from a studio in Nashville, and it's going to be super cool. So it's just like, it's electricity now that we're all like together again. It feels so good. But the last 3 months have been just kind of, it's been a little sad. I mean, our industry and the city in itself, like we got hit by the tornadoes in early March, and then
Yes.
this. And everybody in Nashville, if they're not a musician, then they're like, some kind of gig worker, whether it's catering or bartending, and all those jobs have gone away. So it's just like trying to see your way through it. And we've been really lucky. Our friends, actually, Marty Fredrickson in Loving Mary, who also is a major producer, singer, songwriter, he does too much. He gave us a Pro Tools rig, and our other friend, Jose, gave us his Presonus board. We're using that as a preamp. And then Lewitt Microphones gave us drum microphones.
Ah.
He have set up a home studio. So we started tracking like late April. And it's been awesome. So that really has kept me and my husband's head above water, digging into Pro Tools and doing some session stuff.
Wow.
So we feel a lot better than in the beginning.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned that you saw the band recently in person for the first time in a while, right?
Yeah, we've been in person 2 days.
How was that like?
It's just everybody's so happy, and everybody, you just can feel the way that they're feeling the songs is just different. Like there's a tone of excitement and just a new electricity about everything, because we've been away from it for so long. We've been away from each other and not playing live music and all the things that come with that. I think everybody's just excited, and it sounds pretty good if I can say so myself.
I bet, absolutely. You have all these pent up,
Yeah.
everything. That's great, Sarah. That's great. So, Sarah, you have a unique background. If you don't mind, let me just go back to the genesis of your story. You grew up in Asbury Park.
Yeah.
Obviously better known as the home place of a certain Mr. Bruce Springsteen. How was it growing up in a place, that to rock fans around the world is mythological, if you will?
It was just home for me, playing the Stone Pony when I was, I played the Pony stage as a bass player when I was like 15 or 16. And the Saint and all those OG clubs that have been there forever. And even like rewinding when I was 6 years old on the beach, and there's Springsteen in his Cadillac. And that's like when, in the late 80s, it's like, it was a kind of more of a dangerous spot, and you would always see him everywhere. My mom, one time she made me go up and kiss him, and I cried because I love Springsteen so much and I was so nervous. But there he was, and he was hanging out. And then I followed in my father's footsteps, and, being in Asbury Park, it was a music and arts epicenter. And I was really lucky to cut my teeth there, you know, and playing those clubs. I was underage. It just kind of made me who I am. And it's funny. It's like the band that came from Asbury Park, Days Awake, was my first band. And we just did a track.
That's the one you did with Eric Safka, right?
Yes, yes. So we tracked for the first time in 13 years. So that's kind of cool. We did that this month.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you can't beat Asbury Park. I feel like a tourist now when I go home, but it's kind of cool moving from, they call it where music lives, the city where music lives, to Music City, Nashville. So
it's all music. It's all music, man. I love it. I love it. And okay, you mentioned your dad. We gotta touch on that. Your dad, of course, you know, AKA Joe Bob, known to the 1970s New York rock scene. You know, most of our parents, you know, they have a normal job, blue collar, white collar. How does it feel like when your dad is playing in that 1970s, you know, New York Dolls, Kiss, rock scene of New York? Is it like, does he come home for dinner? Like, honey, dinner served? Like, how does that work?
Well, that was a little before I was born, but that guy, you know, I was growing up in bars, and I just remember being a kid and going to his sound check or something, you know, and it was like the smell of beer and pretzels. And like seeing my dad, and as a little kid, like he would wink at me or smile from stage, and I'd get all nervous, you know. And it was just, he was just a rock and roller, and what a cool history living in the record plant in New York City in the 70s. And he did the Double Fantasy pre-production work. His band did that, and they were just badass. And I just hope that one day I could be as good as him, you know.
Badass, right? I mean, he was gonna go tour with John Lennon, right? A couple of weeks before his unfortunate assassination.
He was, yeah, there was a possibility of him being the touring drummer, you know. They were together at the record plant, and yeah, he was killed.
Unbelievable. So Sarah, obviously you have this rock DNA like entrenched in your genes that is really, really awesome. I can just feel it across the screen. It's really cool. There's this story, urban legend, if you will, that you as a baby in your diapers, you basically were watching like a Doobie Brothers concert or something, and you pretty much would like block out all the noise, including your mother, Kiki. Like, is this a true? Is this? Can you clarify?
Yeah. Pay-per-view was a thing, so you would buy to watch live concerts, and it was the Doobie Brothers, and it was a drum solo. And I was walking around like in my diaper, and then the drum solo started, and then I just stopped. My mom said, like, I had my fingers in my mouth, and I was just staring at the screen, and she was like, Sarah, and then no response. I was just
epic.
And she's like, shit. You know, she knew right then and there that I was following in my daddy's footsteps.
That's great. That's great, Sarah. Okay, so I want to move on to your career a bit. But first, to someone who is not a drummer or who is not in the industry finding out about you, how would you describe your drum ID?
God, that's a good question. My husband's in the background. He goes, powerful. I would hope so. I want to be the comfort for a band. I want to have a nice pocket. They always feel comfortable. And yeah, I guess I'll take his words. Powerful is a cool word.
It's a great word. Yeah. That's good. Okay. So when you were in your early 20s, you basically began making waves. Things started to happen as a session player. Do you have maybe like a moment in time where you feel like a big break, like that destiny interceded, that like, oh man, like everything just aligned for a specific gig or something?
Yeah, it was 2014. I was playing, this is crazy. Well, so many times this happened. It was 2012. Mind you, I had known Maggie Rose, or known of her, years ago. She was 19. She opened for our band at the Stone Pony in Asbury Park. She was there writing with somebody that we were working with, and they're like, hey, can this girl pop up on stage and play with you? Fast forward 5 years later, I'm down in Florida. I'm playing with, her name is BB Buell. I was playing with her, and Maggie's old business partner was there. He's like, Sarah, Tomek? And I'm like, yeah. he's like, do you remember Maggie Rose? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, I need you to come to Nashville and audition to be in her band.
And you didn't know this guy, he just
And
walked
like,
right up.
yeah. He was like, but I was like, okay, sure, guy. And at that point I was living in Asbury and I was playing in New York City, you know, the New York City circuit at night and working a day job. And that's when it happened. And they flew me to Nashville. I auditioned for James Stroud and Scott Simon.
What song did you play?
I played 2 Maggie Rose songs. It was Falling Madly in Love with You, and I think I Ain't Your Mama, which was her first single.
Mm-hmm.
And then Scott Simon, big manager, was managing her at the time. He's worked with like Tim McGraw.
Yeah.
He's a mom. And he's like, do you want to go out for a glass of wine? And I was like, I got the gig. You know, I knew it. And in 2 weeks, I had to move my entire life to Nashville. And we were a month later in rehearsals and on a tour bus. And we did like 180 dates, I think, in 8 months. It was crazy.
Wow. So, I mean, there's so many questions that I want to unpack there. Like, okay, let's start with that last part. 180 dates in 8 months. That's basically a show every 3-4 days, tops.
Radio show. Crazy.
Yeah. Does the road start to feel weird? Like, do the shows start like blurring in, or like tell us, like to those that are not artists, like how does that feel like? What's that experience like?
Yeah, I'm always like, what? And Maggie's got an elephant. She was like, oh no, that was like in Topeka, Kansas, 2015, and I was like, what? They do start to blur. I started keeping a tour journal when I went on the road with Them Vibes when we toured Europe for a month, and that. I should start doing that again, because when you just want to experience it, you want to live in the moment, and then you know you want to be able to share these stories with friends and family or babies one day, and they do tend to blur when you're moving so fast.
Yeah.
So yeah, it does. I guess I need to start that tour book again.
I bet. There you go. And okay, so you jumped genres: country, rock, Dem Vibes. By the way, Dem Vibes, what a great. I mean, of course, Loving Mary, all of them are great, but Dem Vibes has just such a crisp sound. It's so well produced. Really, really awesome. I was just jamming to Power Collide and Can You Dig It, like earlier in the research. Really well produced tunes.
Right.
But but I wanted to ask you the recording process, right? When it comes to rock and roll or country, what are some of the main differences right now when everything is so digital?
Well, I'll just start with Them Vibes, because Electric Fever and this last EP was done by Bobby Holland, and then Bobby did Maggie's Cut to Impress record all live, and that's really the feeling of that, just rock and roll, just honest. There's like an honesty behind it, and I think that's really what Them Vibes and Maggie captured in their last 3 releases. I think it's a little different than, say, country in, you know, these are real sounds. We caught them in the room with microphones with everybody together, and that was what went onto the record. And a lot of these country records, you know, the drums are all replaced, and you're using 8 plugins for a snare drum, and things are shifted to the grid, so everything's in perfect time. You don't get that swag and that kind of, that feeling, that rock and roll, that I want rock and roll or music to give. Like, there should be imperfections, and that kind of makes your ear tweak, and it's honest, and that's real. And I think that's why I started playing music. You know, it's just getting your emotion out. And sometimes with the country format, and not all of it, but a lot of the radio stuff it's too perfect. It's too digitized. Everything's tuned. The vocals don't need to be tuned and things like that. So I think that's the difference mainly.
That's interesting. I was last week I talked to Mark Goodman, the original MTV VJ, and he's in Sirius XM now. He brought up a point. I wonder if you agree. He said we were talking about how rock is basically how I thought maybe was dying or what's going on, and he mentioned country as now carrying the spirit of rock and roll. He mentioned people like Butch Walker or Jason Isbell, who are, you know, this is like what rock and roll stood for like 20 years ago. Do you agree with this?
I don't know if I would say the country format. I believe that's more like Americana. I think the country format is kind of in an identity crisis right now. Okay. But like that, but yeah, that roots music is real country, but they're calling Americana. So the Margot Prices, the Jason Isbells, even the Brandy Carlisles, all that kind of stuff that me, like the Loretta Lynn's, all that stuff. It wasn't, you know, country's become more pop and like rap. I'm very confused by it, but
Yeah.
but yeah, Americana has brought that, all that roots stuff is coming back, and I'm very happy to see that for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure, Sarah. And I have to ask you, just seeing, look, every video that I saw of every, you know, of all the bands you've played, there's something that always sticks out. There's a parallel, and it's your amazing energy, your peak state. You're always smiling, like you're having the most fun in there. So I just wanted to ask you, like, how do you always are in such a great peak state? Like, what's your secret, man? It always just blurs into the screen.
Play drums for a living. I never had thought I'd be able to do this. I'm like in the 1 percentile luckiest musicians. You know, there's very few of us that get to make a you know, a livelihood out of this. And it's funny, like I do smile. I'm so happy. And when I would play with Steven Tyler, he would be like, "Stop smiling. I want you to look angry." You know, because I'm just like,
Yeah.
he always want me to like not smile as much. But
Right.
play with me. But that's funny that you bring that up.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Sarah, you've been so awesome with your time. I want to ask you a couple more questions. I want to ask you about your collaboration with Steven Tyler. Just very quickly, you know, how did it start? How did it come about? And, you know, just tell us a little bit about that.
That was the second time magic happened for me. I was playing in a rock club. Actually, it was a little club on the side of an old Irish bar out on Music Circle, Music Row. And I play with my buddies in the rock and roll residency, and they do like more B-side rock and rolls, kind of like B-side of anything from maybe the late 60s to through the 70s. And they knew I was a huge Aerosmith fan. I was a huge Aerosmith fan growing up. And, you know, if ever they wanted to do an Aerosmith cover, they would call me. So they wanted to do Lord of the Thighs. And I had that earlier that day, I had recorded my first time that I ever got to play drums for Maggie. It was in Marty Fredrickson's studio. And we recorded the track there, and I didn't meet him then. And then we went out for drinks, and I was like, "Hey, let's go out, and then I'm going to go down here and sit in, and I'm going to go play this Aerosmith song with my buds." So Maggie and Dallas Davidson, the producers, they all came, and I got up and I played. And as soon as I got off the stage, there was Marty Fredrickson, and he was like, "Hi," and then, you know, and I was like, "I know who you are," and he's like, "Can I have your number?" And then that's how it started. And then it was like, "I want you to be," you know, his manager was like, "Marty wants you to join his band Loving Mary, and this is what it is, and blah, blah, blah. And also, would you be available for Steven Tyler dates?" And I was like,
Wow.
"Really?" I was like, "Come on." And that's how it happened, just by playing in a bar.
Great package deal.
Pretty fun, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's awesome, Sarah. From the current music, give us a drummer people should know about. Maybe someone that we don't know, that's not mainstream, but that you think should be. Someone that you're just in awe of right now.
God, I mean, there's so many guys in Nashville.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I'm so bad with this. A guy I don't know, I don't know. One of my favorites is Ben Caesar. He's Brad Paisley's drummer. Everybody probably knows him. God, unknown.
No, but that's a good one. I don't think my my audience would know that. So that's a good one.
Gary Hope is amazing. Christopher Williams is insane. He's a metal drummer, but he's got an insanely big pocket. Kevin Murphy, huge pocket rock drummer. Love him. Those are just 4 guys out of Nashville that are my buds that I highly look.
Sarah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you. Let me ask you one more question. You've seen so much live music growing up your whole life. So this question holds weight with you. What is the best concert that you've attended, that you've been a fan, and that to this day, May 2020 or June or March, whatever it is, you are like, man, wow, I remember that show.
It's hard to say one. God. Just recently, Tool blew me away. Tool blew my mind.
Yeah.
Radiohead was one of the most amazing shows I've ever seen. And I would say The first Aerosmith show I saw in 1994. I was
Oh,
12,
cool.
and my friend's father took us, and it was like the greatest rock and roll experience of my life. You know, seeing
Yeah.
5 original guys from 1972 on that stage, and that was like the Get a Grip heyday. And Steven Tyler was like a mythical creature.
Sure.
Like everything. And I've seen Brandy Carlisle shows at 400 seater venues. They've
Yeah.
blown me.
She's special. She's very special. For
Yeah,
sure.
there's so many, and that's important to not stop going out as a musician to see live music, because it's going to continually inspire.
Yeah.
But those would be top 4 shows for me, and that it's funny to keep bringing up Aerosmith, but that show, you know, as a 12-year-old girl,
Yeah.
it was like pretty mind blowing.
Oh yeah, yeah, I hear you. It's funny you mentioned your friend's father, because I had a similar experience. A friend's father took us to see Metallica when I was 13, and like I will always be forever grateful to that guy's father, like forever.
You'll always remember looking back and seeing what their face looked like, you know.
Exactly.
It's fine.
Oh, Sarah, this has been super enjoyable. You are such a star, and we can't wait to see. Like, I can feel your state out of this quarantine period is gonna go 2021. You're gonna be like a fireball, a trailblazer.
Your
So
lips to good ears.
yeah, you are, and like we look forward to seeing you on the road. Keep rocking it, and to tell your husband that his band is also killing it. But thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Ciao.
Bye, Sarah.